Imagine a world without poverty, a world without hunger. Picture a place where every child goes to bed with a full stomach, and no one has to worry about where their next meal will come from. Envision communities where resources are shared equitably and everyone has access to the necessities of life. This is not just a dream, but a vision of what our world could be. A world where everyone has a fair chance, where opportunities are not limited by the circumstances of one's birth, but are available to all regardless of their background. Imagine a society where education is accessible to everyone and where people from all walks of life can come together to learn, grow, and innovate. This is the dream of utopian socialism, a vision of a society built on the principles of equality, cooperation, and mutual aid. It is a dream that has inspired countless individuals throughout history and continues to inspire people today. It emerged during the Industrial Revolution, a time of great upheaval and social change. The rapid industrialization brought about significant economic growth, but it also led to widespread social problems. Factories were springing up, cities were growing at an unprecedented rate, and the gap between the rich and the poor was widening. The working conditions in these new factories were often harsh and inhumane. Workers, including children, toiled for long hours in dangerous environments for meager wages. The rapid urbanization led to overcrowded and unsanitary living conditions in many cities. The stark contrast between the opulent lifestyles of the wealthy and the dire poverty of the working class was becoming increasingly apparent. In this turbulent era, utopian socialism offered a beacon of hope. It proposed an alternative to the exploitative and competitive nature of industrial capitalism. It envisioned a society where people worked together for the common good rather than for individual profit, a society where cooperation and solidarity were valued over competition and greed. It envisioned a society based on cooperation, not competition, a society where resources were shared equitably and everyone had access to the necessities of life. This vision was not just about economic equality, but also about creating a sense of community and belonging. It was about building a society where everyone had a stake in the common good, a society where everyone worked together for the common good. This idea captured the imaginations of many. It inspired people to think about new ways of organizing society and to experiment with different forms of communal living and cooperative work. This idea captured the imaginations of many. Thinkers, writers, and reformers across Europe and America were drawn to its promise of a more just and equitable world. They began to write about these ideas, to discuss them in public forums, and to advocate for social and economic reforms. Thinkers, writers, and reformers across Europe and America were drawn to its promise of a more just and equitable world. They saw in utopian socialism a way to address the social and economic injustices of their time. They believed that by working together, people could create a better world for everyone. Utopian socialism was more than just a theoretical concept. It inspired real-world experiments and communities. People came together to form intentional communities based on the principles of cooperation and mutual aid. These communities sought to put the ideals of utopian socialism into practice, to create a living example of what a more just and equitable society could look like. It inspired real-world experiments and communities. These communities, though often short-lived, provided a glimpse into a different way of life. They showed that it was possible to live in a way that prioritized the common good over individual profit and that valued cooperation over competition. These communities, though often short-lived, provided a glimpse into a different way of life. They demonstrated that it was possible to create a society based on the principles of utopian socialism, even if only for a short time. They showed that people could come together to build a better world, and that the dream of utopian socialism was not just a utopian fantasy, but a real possibility, a life free from the excesses and exploitation of industrial capitalism. These communities offered a vision of a different kind of society, one that was more just, more equitable, and more humane. They showed that it was possible to live in a way that was more in harmony with the principles of utopian socialism. This essay delves into the heart of utopian socialism. We will explore its origins, its key figures, and its enduring legacy. We will look at the ideas that inspired it, the people who championed it, and the communities that sought to put its principles into practice. We will explore its origins, its key figures, and its enduring legacy. We will examine the impact that utopian socialism has had on the world, and the ways in which its ideas continue to resonate today. We will look at the lessons that can be learned from the successes and failures of the utopian communities and consider how these lessons can be applied to the challenges we face in the modern world. Join me as we journey through this fascinating chapter in human history. Together, we will explore the dream of utopian socialism and consider what it can teach us about building a better world. A world where everyone has a fair chance, where resources are shared equitably, and where cooperation and mutual aid are valued over competition and greed. This is the dream of utopian socialism, and it is a dream worth striving for. Utopian socialism, at its core, is driven by a simple yet powerful belief. Humans are inherently good. This ideology emerged in the early 19th century as a response to the rapid industrialization and the accompanying social upheaval. It was a time when the gap between the rich and the poor was widening, and the working class was subjected to harsh conditions. Utopian socialists argued that people are not naturally selfish or greedy. Instead, they believed that these traits were the result of living in a society that encouraged competition over cooperation. They saw the potential for a different kind of society, one where people could live harmoniously and support each other. These negative traits, they argued, are products of a flawed system, a system that prioritizes profit over people and individual success over collective well-being. They believed that by changing the system, we could change human behavior. The existing system pits individuals against each other in a ruthless competition for resources and power. This competition creates a society where the strong thrive at the expense of the weak and where inequality is rampant. The utopian socialists believed in the transformative power of education and social reform. They argued that by educating people and reforming social institutions, we could create a more just and equitable society. Education was seen as a tool to enlighten individuals and empower them to contribute positively to their communities. They argued that by creating a more just and equitable society, we could unleash the inherent goodness within us all. This belief was rooted in the idea that humans are naturally inclined to help one another, and that a supportive environment would foster this inclination. They envisioned a world where cooperation replaced competition, where people worked together for the common good rather than against each other for personal gain. This vision extended to all aspects of life, from the workplace to the community. In this ideal society, shared ownership would replace private property. Resources and means of production would be owned collectively, ensuring that everyone had access to what they needed. This would eliminate the vast disparities in wealth and power that characterize capitalist societies. In such a society, everyone would have an equal opportunity to thrive. Success would not be determined by one's background or connections, but by one's contributions to the community. This would create a more inclusive and fair society. This vision was starkly different from the harsh realities of industrial capitalism. During the Industrial Revolution, workers faced long hours, low wages, and dangerous working conditions. The utopian socialist offered a radical alternative to this grim reality. It offered a radical alternative, one that prioritized human needs over profits. They believed that by focusing on the well-being of individuals and communities, rather than on the accumulation of wealth, we could create a more humane and sustainable society. This alternative vision sought to address the root causes of social problems rather than just their symptoms. By ensuring that everyone's basic needs were met, utopian socialists believed that we could eliminate poverty, reduce crime, and improve overall quality of life, and one that sought to create a society based on solidarity and mutual aid. In this society, people would support each other, work together, and share resources, creating a strong sense of community and belonging. This vision of utopian socialism continues to inspire those who seek a more just and equitable world. One of the most prominent figures of utopian socialism was Robert Owen. Born in 1771 in Newtown, Wales, Owen was a visionary who believed in the potential for human improvement through social reform. His ideas were revolutionary for his time, and he sought to create a society where cooperation and mutual respect were the cornerstones of daily life. A successful Welsh industrialist, Owen was appalled by the poverty and misery he witnessed in the factories of Manchester. The Industrial Revolution had brought about significant economic changes, but it also led to deplorable working conditions for many labourers. Owen was determined to find a better way. He believed that the conditions under which people worked and lived directly shaped their character. Owen argued that if people were treated with dignity and provided with a supportive environment, they would become more productive and morally upright individuals. Owen put his beliefs into practice in his own factories in New Lanark, Scotland. He purchased the mills in 1800 and began implementing a series of progressive reforms that were unheard of at the time. He improved working conditions, reduced working hours, and provided education for workers and their children. The results were remarkable. Owen established schools for the children, introduced health and safety measures, and even set up a cooperative store where workers could buy goods at fair prices. Productivity increased, and the community flourished. The workers were healthier, happier, and more dedicated to their work. New Lanark became a beacon of hope and a living example of what could be achieved through enlightened management and social responsibility. Owen's experiment in New Lanark became a model for other utopian communities. His success demonstrated that businesses could be both profitable and humane, challenging the prevailing notion that exploitation was necessary for economic success. He advocated for self-sufficient communities where people worked together and shared the fruits of their labor. Owen believed that such communities could eliminate poverty and create a more just and equitable society. His vision extended beyond the factory walls to encompass a broader social transformation. His ideas resonated with many, and he became a leading voice in the growing movement for social change. Owen's legacy lives on as a pioneer of cooperation and a champion of social justice, inspiring future generations to strive for a better, more inclusive world. Across the English Channel, another visionary thinker, Charles Fourier, was developing his own unique brand of utopian socialism. Fourier believed that human society was plagued by artificial divisions and hierarchies. He envisioned a world where these barriers would be dissolved and people could live together in harmonious communities. Fourier's ideal community, which he called a phalanx, was designed to maximize happiness and well-being. He believed that by organizing work around people's natural passions and talents, everyone could find fulfillment and contribute to the community. Fourier's ideas, though often eccentric and complex, captured the imagination of many. His vision of a society free from drudgery and oppression resonated with those seeking a more fulfilling and equitable way of life.